Hey, Chicago, what do you say? This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by Toyota and Bet365. Next on the show, yes, the Cubs avoid the sweep in Milwaukee. The trade chatter starts to heat up before the deadline. Jordan Burnfield's here, and the Cubs make some room on the roster. CHGO Cubs, next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by Toyota and Bet365. Toyota, let's go places, and Bet365, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Make sure you use the code CHGO365 at sign-up. Big win for your Chicago Cubs to avoid the sweep in Milwaukee and remain one game back in the division race. 10-3 over the Brewers. Luke Stuckmeyer, Jordan Burnfield in the building. Thank you for coming in. And Sarah running the ones and twos. Hi to everybody in the live YouTube chat here at the all-new CHGO Cubs YouTube channel. Send us your comments and your super chats, which we already have a Toyota super chat. Sarah, should we hit it right out of the gate? Catone says for $1.99, I love Mo Baller. Hope we don't trade him.
Well, look, if Mo Baller's gone, that was a good way to go out.
Well, he contributed. That was a big hit for him. And just called up before the game, and there he was. You know, he was batting 188 from his first stint here with the Cubs, comes up and gets a big three-run double in the third inning. This was a nice game because, Jordan, the first two were such absolute bombs.
It was excruciating. I remember texting you a couple days ago saying that I felt like this series was going to be excruciating. It was. But I think we can all take the sigh of relief because the reality of this three-game series is it wasn't make or break. It wasn't season defining. And they only lost one game in the standings. I mean, At the end of it, because they won today, it wipes away a lot of the bad feeling that we had over the first two games. Are there things the Cubs need to fix? Obviously. Can they do that over the next 24 hours at the trade deadline? Yes, and those are things we're going to talk about in the show. But winning today cures a lot of things.
This would have been the first time would have been swept in a three-game series this season.
Yeah.
Talk about terrible timing if it would have happened. Like the Brewers playing really good baseball, leading in, finally caught the Cubs, and for them, if it possibly could have been a three-game series lead going out of this, boy, you feel a lot better at one, and now you get a day off before you take on the Orioles. A lot of the guys that we called for last night to step up did actually step up in this game. 3 hits for PCA. Kyle Tucker, 2 walks and 2 hits. And man, is that crucial for them.
It's huge. Look, over the last few weeks, Kyle Tucker's lack of production has hurt them. Now, over the course of the year, Kyle Tucker's been great for the most part. He's 9th in baseball in WAR. I'm not sitting here and saying that he hasn't been a very good player for the Cubs. He has been, but in a short stretch of time where the Cubs have struggled to sort of get back to where they were about 4 weeks ago, one of the reasons for that is Kyle Tucker's lack of production. And today, I even thought before he hit the 2-run double, that single he hit early in the game was just a rocket. You could just see.
I think it was 104 exit velo, so it was hit hard.
You could see that he looked more comfortable at the plate today. And then after the start against the White Sox, which was nightmarish for Shota Imanaga, he wasn't great today, but he was fine today. He was at least steadying in a way that they needed him to be. Gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. You'll take it. And look, today was, as you said, a game to right the ship a little bit, and I think you feel a lot better going into this Orioles series this weekend.
Shota was unquestionably his worst start of the season, and Matthew Boyd to start this series was the worst start of the season. So for Shota to bounce back today, this was sort of a mid or average Shota that he got today. The early on, he's getting the strikeouts, and you're like, wow, and then Contreras hits him with the home run. You're like, when Shota's sort of an average human, that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
Like he always gives up, but no walks is the key because the homers were not 3-run homers. And he limited it to 2 home runs, not 4. And so he gets out of there. His final line, 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 8 strikeouts, no walks. For me, the key was going to be the home runs, but it ended up being the 0 walks.
100%. He limited the damage. He made a couple mistakes today. The fact is, for the Cubs to finish this season, either winning the division or making the playoffs, they can't really afford for Shota Imanaga and Matt Boyd not to be very good. I mean, the fact that they've gotten to this point is a result of them having an offense that has been among the best in baseball all year, and Imanaga, when healthy, and Boyd all season being elite pitchers to make up for what they don't have elsewhere in the rotation and in their bullpen. So it is absolutely critical. They really can't afford for Imanaga and Boyd not to continue to be steadying presences in that rotation. And I think because of the way things had been trending recently, you weren't exactly sure what you were going to get from Shota today, but I think it was a fine start for him.
He turned out to be the stopper that we thought Matthew Boyd was going to be the guy to really set this series in the right direction. But it was some difficult matchups. And frankly, in the past, Peralta's been really tough on the Cubs.
Yeah.
But for Michael Busch to start the game with a leadoff home run, it has been since Happ was hurt and then he was moved out of the leadoff spot. It's been an interesting experiment to see who would be leading off for the Cubs in each game. And I still believe that if everything goes the way the Cubs plan it to go the rest of the season, I still believe Happ will eventually get back to the leadoff spot if he's playing better baseball. And we got that home run at the end, which there were rumors that he was going on the injured list. Then he pinch hits, he gets the home run. Those are 2 big plays. 1, Busch starting the game with the lead.
Yep.
And then 2, looking ahead, Ian Happ maybe getting on track here with a home run. Both of those could be important for totally different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs, you mentioned it, with Busch hitting the home run to lead off the game. They have the best record in baseball this year when they score first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's overwhelmingly good. I think in the middle of the White Sox series, they were 43-8 when scoring first. So it's something close to that over the last few games. Point being is that they have been a team all year that when they strike first, they're usually able to build on it, and that leads to them being able to outslug a team and win a game. And I think you saw that again today. I know that with Ian Happ, that the season has not been good for him. He just has not hit consistently this year, and I can't really figure out why we haven't seen a more consistent offensive year for Ian Happ. And I tend to agree with you. I think Happ will likely be back in the leadoff spot unless they acquire someone over the next 24 hours that could assume that leadoff role. I understand why Craig Counsell moved Michael Busch to the leadoff spot, because 3 weeks ago, Michael Busch had a .919 OPS. Why wouldn't you put that guy in the leadoff spot to give him a chance to do it? And I also like the idea of doing it because you have to give Busch some opportunities against left-handed pitching, which they're still not fully doing, but they're doing more of.
They're dabbling in that now.
Right. So the fact that he led off the game with a home run is huge because he's been struggling as of late. And the fact that the Cubs are in the position they're in right now at 18 games over and a game back of first, and the reason why they've been one of the best teams in baseball all year is because their offense has overachieved, right? And so they need to get back to that point where I don't know that you can necessarily expect career seasons from everyone the rest of the way, but you need to be a team that outslugs your opponent, because I just don't know if they have enough pitching to win another way more consistently.
We can sit here and take a deep sigh of relief as Cubs fans, because previous reports of the Cubs collapse have been premature. We're not there, folks. Everybody can relax. They lost 2 out of 3, but they're only 1 game back, and this was a much better feel to walk away, at least this way, knowing that you avoided the sweep, seeing some guys play well, thinking to yourself, man, what if Tucker was actually hot and back to the hot Kyle Tucker the last 2 months of the season? It changes the whole offense, as you said, right? Like, it changes everything. It changes Seiya at the plate. It changes the length of the lineup usually. And that's why he was such a big addition to this team. It even impacts PCA, in my opinion.
Absolutely it does. Look, Kyle Tucker has been, in my opinion, the difference for this team. And the reason is you can look at what PCA has done this year. He's been unbelievable. He's been the better player in comparison to Tucker this season. But you can't convince me that the Cubs from multiple positions in the lineup have not benefited from having a player of Tucker's caliber in that lineup. I mean, were we talking about Seiya Suzuki as an all-star snub in the past? No. Were we talking about Michael Busch as a potential all-star last year? No. What's different? They added a player who is, in a normal year, a 5+ WAR player. And lo and behold, when you bring a player in of that caliber, it changes your lineup. It gives other guys opportunities to see better pitches. And they feasted on that. Now, I hope that next year we're not experimenting with what the Cubs offense will look like without Kyle Tucker. But right now with him, they are clearly a different team. And so, I think for the hot takers that want to be like, oh, Kyle Tucker, look, let's relax. I know that he has a 276 slug in the month of July. Obviously, that's bad. But if they can get him going again, which I would imagine that they will, because the back of the baseball card says that Kyle Tucker is going to be an elite player for the rest of the season, then their offense should be just fine. But you've seen now over the last 2-3 weeks when the guys that they need to be their leaders carrying them from an offensive standpoint have not been there, they look like an ordinary team.
Yeah, that's true. And you could say that about a lot of teams. Lots of teams have flaws, and lots of teams go through these peaks and valleys. The Dodgers had a horrible stretch recently, and if I had to pick one team to win the World Series, I would still pick the Dodgers. And it sounds like they're going to be aggressive at the trade deadline in a way that only the Dodgers probably can be. So we'll see how it all ends up unfolding. I think David Snyder said something about Mo Baller earlier in the live YouTube chat. He said from the start, Moisés needed to be kept here, but folks, where's he going to play? DH first base? That's where I'm tired of always being right, just like Luke. And of course, David knows that will get your message read, your chat read. Anytime you say that I'm right, I will always read that comment. I'm asking you.
Fair.
Jordan Burnfield, I'm asking you the question I've kind of been asking for the last week or so. It's 11 games now since the All-Star break. Is that right?
Yeah, 12.
Are you buying the Matt Shaw stock for the rest of this season? I think most people say, hey, we still think the future is bright. We know it's still there, but rookies can go up and down and up and down. Are you buying Shaw stock for the rest of this season?
My answer is no, but that's not to say that I don't believe that he can be a good player. The only reason is like you said, this is a rookie that just doesn't have a lot of experience. So what I would say is that the adjustments that he's made to his swing let me believe or want to believe that better days are ahead because he's pulling the ball. He's hitting it with more authority. He looks like he belongs as a major league hitter right now. I think we've seen, and he's sort of proven over the course of the year, even when he hasn't hit, the glove plays. He's an excellent defender, but I just don't know. The hard part for rookies is always the adjustments that they make to you and then you having to adjust back to them. Yeah. And because there have been so many different versions of Matt Shaw's plate approach in one season, it's just hard to know what that's going to look like a month from now when it's only been a 12-game sample size. But clearly, he has looked a lot better over the last few weeks.
I'm going to say that I am buying that stock, but I'm buying it in two different ways.
Okay.
One, if Geno Suarez is available at the right price, I'm buying Shaw stock in that he becomes your super utility player, okay?
Yeah.
So he still becomes a valuable piece. I still think he's going to be very valuable. I like the way defensive replacement, can fill in for anybody. He gives you a lot of confidence that he could play certain positions if anything happens, if somebody gets nicked up, all of those things. Pinch hitter would improve the bench, all of it. And then if Suarez isn't available or he goes somewhere else, I'm buying stock in that we have no choice. That's what I'm believing in, and I believe what I've seen for 12 games. I love the changes, and who knows? He might be able to give you what PCA did at the end of last season which skyrocketed him into what he is now. We're going to talk more about it in a second, and we're also going to do a lot of other things and a lot of trade talk coming up next. But first, a word from our sponsors. Pay attention here, folks, with Bet365's payoff offer. You're a winner if your team goes 5 runs ahead with instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. You heard me right. So download the app and use the code CHGO365 when you sign up. And breaking news from Bet365, new customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, and that is win or lose. Sign up using that code. Again, CHGO365. All you do is deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, and that's win or lose that bet. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and older. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. Hey, baseball fans, if you're thinking about upgrading your drive this season, Toyota's 2025 lineup is worth a look. There's the RAV4. It's versatile, reliable, and ready for a little adventure. The Grand Highlander, plenty of room, super comfortable, great for families and long road trips. Looking for efficiency, the Corolla's got you covered. If you want durability, something tougher, well, then the Tacoma has serious durability. And, of course, then there's the Camry, the good old Camry, sleek and packed with performance. Summer starts here. Visit your local dealer. Find your deal today. You can check out the full lineup at Toyota.com or stop by your local Chicagoland Toyota dealership. Toyota, let's go places. What a time it is right now to sign up and be a CHGO diehard. We have an exclusive deal with the addition of Adam Johns and the Johns and Hogue podcast. You know, those guys getting involved. We got a lot of Bears news. You want to stay locked in for this. This is the time. Plus, the Cubs making a playoff push. Get access to our exclusive written content. Go to allchgo.com for information on how to sign up. All right, we're back. Cubs win 10-3, and it is time for our Cards from the Vault segment, sponsored by Arena Club. Right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack. I ripped one today, and let me tell you, Jordan, spent $100 on an Arena Club gold pack, and here it is. Here, you ready to see it? You guys ready? Here we go. Ripping the pack. The suspense is killing us. What's it going to be? Oh, boy. Here we go. Wait a minute. Woo!
Look at that.
Woo!
Look at that.
The PCA poll. What a rip. PCA slab pack poll on Arena Club. There you go. Right now, 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/CHGO and use our code CHGO. Ironically, I just got a PCA card, and exactly 4 years ago today was the day that they traded. We're going to talk more about that in a second. Do want to remind everybody, though, you got a chance to go see PCA with us in person. How do you do it? It's diehards only right now. Exclusive deal for our diehards is that we are having a takeover, Friday 120 Club, coming up in August, and it's against the Pirates on the 15th. Normally, everybody meets up at Murphy's, and then they go over with their own bleacher ticket, and everybody sits together in left field. This time, meet at Murphy's, 10 a.m., Pirates on the 15th, and then this takeover includes a rooftop ticket to go with us next to the Firehouse, the last one not owned by the Cubs, and it's all the food you can eat, all the drink you can handle, and all the vibes you can withstand.
I bet the vibes are going to be really good.
And PCA is going to be there, baby.
That's
4
awesome.
years. Can you believe that? 4 years ago today is the day that they traded Javi Baez for Pete Crow Armstrong.
2 months of Javi Baez
2 months.
for Pete Crow Armstrong. I mean, pretty incredible.
That's the cautionary tale of the next 30 hours here before the Cubs go. Now,
Yeah.
so PCA trade 4 years ago, he was really good. There's been a lot of chatter going on as we're doing this show live right after the game. A lot of stuff's going to happen between now and probably Thursday's trade deadline show, which will be 4:30 to 5:30 here in the Midwest. If something big happens, we will break in with an emergency podcast and do that. So don't worry about that. So let's just talk about some of the stuff that has popped up right now. Ke'Bryan Hayes to the Reds with 5 years of control. So I was never in on the Ke'Bryan Hayes is your answer at third base, because to me it's just defense, which we already have in Shaw, and the bat hasn't been there. But 5 years of control, listen, the Reds aren't out of a playoff spot. They're still a factor, so it's interesting to see that they've added somebody pretty interesting.
Well, and to your point, one of the things that I think makes this trade deadline so interesting, and I think this has now been a phenomenon for the last couple of years, since they've added the extra wild card, there are not very many teams anymore that can definitively say we are out and we're going to trade as many assets as we can. I mean, even a team like the Orioles, who the Cubs are going to see on Friday, like, are they going to sell everyone off, or are they looking at this season as sort of an anomaly?
That's what we've heard, on what they've said been. We're going for it next year.
Yeah, so like I don't think you're getting a bunch of players off of that roster.
You're not getting star players.
No, I mean you could get Cedric Mullins, who's a free agent at the end of the year. That's probably not a fit for the Cubs. But I guess my point is that what I don't understand here is, why are the Pirates doing this? Because when you have 5 years left to control, he's still a young player. You would think that either they just don't believe that he's going to be good,
or they don't like his work ethic, or they don't like something, because you would think an organization like that has a player of control for 5 more years. I would wait longer and see if the bat comes around.
Yes.
I don't really know why they do it now.
You're not paying him, so
I just hope they're considering trading Skeens to the Cubs. Maybe they're not that crazy.
Yeah.
So Ke'Bryan Hayes to the Reds. We've heard about Carlos Correa and the Astros possibly having a reunion. That's an interesting chatter. Again, doesn't involve the Cubs. But the Shane Bieber one has gained some steam. Ken Rosenthal was the first, I believe, on that the Cubs and other scouts watched Tuesday in Akron. Dodgers are one of those teams. He's had multiple rehab starts, the most recent being the 4th, 7 strikeouts, no walks, 4 innings. Here's the interesting thing about Bieber, who's coming back from Tommy John. He has an option next season. So it's not just a rental. He has a player option at $16 million. At first I thought, wow, that's a pretty big risk for a guy that's just made 4 rehab starts to invest $16 million. But the buyout's only $4 million. So now it's only a $4 million risk to you.
So what are you willing to give up to get Shane Bieber, who, by the way, because of the surgery, made 2 starts last year, and in 2023 made only 21 starts. So the last time that he made a full slate of starts was in 2022, when he had 31 starts and 2.88 ERA and finished 7th in the Cy Young Award voting. But again, that's 3 years ago.
Okay, take the competition out of it. Take the Yankees out of the mix, and all the teams that want starting pitching and are thinking, what if we... The Guardians were the team that gave us the perfect example last year. Matthew Boyd, who's now on the Cubs. So what if you got Matthew Boyd playoff out of Bieber for this push, and then next year you got Matthew Boyd in Bieber for that following season when you don't have Justin Steele most or all of the season?
Sure.
That's the perfect scenario for Cubs. Like, it fits in there. He's the right timeline for that. It's just whether or not you believe that another pitcher will bounce back like that. We've seen Alcantara from the Marlins have a much tougher time coming back from an arm injury, right? With consistency. I think it's a pretty good fit. If you take the other teams out of it, what would I be able to? Well, I mean, if they told me I want Triantos and a lower level, yes. Am I giving up Owen Casey for him? No, I'm not, because it still could be potentially a rental and a $4 million buyout.
Yeah,
right? That would be a hard no, and I would let some other team take that risk. But if you're telling me there's a deal to be had and you just have to slightly upgrade over another team with some lower level prospects, or Jordan Wicks, who had a good rehab start, and you leverage Wicks and a prospect and you say that's enough to roll the dice on Bieber, then I'm in on that.
I think I would be too. I mean, the one thing, though, when you make a move like that, for the Cubs, which have been a team all year that have been pitching short because Steele's out for the year, because they lost Imanaga for that long period of time, because they're playing without Tyone right now, if you make a trade like that to get Bieber and then it, one, takes him longer to rehab, two, he comes back and really struggles, there's a lot of risk, as you said. Yeah. So if it works out the way it did with Boyd, obviously that's the best scenario, but does he then, you might get into a situation where he comes back, doesn't help you at all. Maybe you make the playoffs without him or him not helping you, and then he opts in to a $16 million contract next year.
Sure.
Right? So then it's like, well, now we're going to just take the flyer on him a year from now, when this year we know that the Cubs have a pretty good chance of being in the postseason. So to me, it's interesting because of the name and because of what he used to be. But the only way I'm really on board with it, to be honest, is if what the Cubs are giving up is pretty minimal.
Joseph suggests, what about Ben Brown and a low-level prospect for Bieber? That's interesting. You're giving up on a young guy who still looks like he has a lot of potential, but some people have soured on Ben Brown a little bit. I still think the biggest gamble, if you were to outbid another team or other teams for Bieber, because I think he is getting moved, if you were to land Bieber, I still think the bigger risk would be trading the wrong prospects more than I'd be worried about the $16 million.
Yeah.
Remember, you paid Kyle Hendricks $16 million last year.
Yeah, the $16 million doesn't matter to me. But
sure, no,
I'm just saying that,
I know. None of the money stuff matters
when we
to me.
know that Tom Ricketts is trying to be careful with their expenditures, and we know
you're trying
that
to
there's
sign Tucker,
a certain player that's going to be very expensive in the offseason. If you're telling me that $16 million has no effect on whether they're going to keep Kyle Tucker, then fine. But if that's the difference between, well, look, we gave Shane Bieber $16 million for next season, we're out of the Kyle Tucker expenditure because we don't want to spend $45 million or whatever it is on him, then obviously it's not worth it. So I would need to know what the Cubs are willing to do and not willing to do as well. But if you're telling me that the money's inconsequential with Bieber, then sure. I think, and look, Carter Hawkins in the chat, amazingly, is joining us.
He's here all the time.
And he's in for Shane Bieber. So look, it's obviously tantalizing in a certain way because of who he used to be.
Sure.
It's just that when you bring in a guy that is immediately coming off the surgery, not a guy that's 2 years removed from the surgery, you really don't know what you're going to get.
I saw Niren saying Gallen and Bieber types are my expectation. That's interesting. It's interesting. It's sort of, both those names to me have the Cole Hamels.
But Cole Hamels was
turned out
pretty good.
Turned out to be really good. And
yes.
so that wouldn't be the worst thing if it turned out to be like Cole Hamels for me. I still think my dream scenario, it used to be Suarez. But I'm starting to think more and more that the Cubs have the guys that can fix the offense. They're there.
Yes.
Right? They just need to play better, Tucker,
yes.
etc. If you go and somehow use your big pieces, whether that's Casey, whoever, and you can somehow get Ryne or Mackenzie Gore.
Now we're
that's number one.
Yeah.
Now if you could also use prospects to go get me Duran from the Twins or Jax.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
And those two things. So now Duran would really be the dream, who is supposed to be moved, a lot of people think, by the end of the day. And a lot of teams really, I hope the Cubs are in that mix.
Duran, yes.
So if you got Gore, Duran, and then Willie Castro was your outfielder, I would wash my hands and say Carter Hawkins and Jed have done their job and then some.
Okay.
Because they've made this team the favorite in the division.
That's what I was going to ask you. If they get those guys,
that would be enough for me.
To me, if you ended up
and it's going to be not cheap.
It would be expensive, but I think if you got those three guys, you could make a strong case that the Cubs are the favorite in the National League. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Not over the Dodgers still, because I still think
Dodgers have a lot of injuries.
But you don't know what they're going to do because they're supposed to be in on Duran. They're supposed to be in on everybody.
I'm saying if they ended up with either Gore or Ryne, Duran, and an outfielder or a bullpen.
You'd have to take him one or two.
They're right there.
They're a top 4 team in baseball, unquestionably. Yeah. All right, we're going to have a live appearance from Jared Wyllys from Milwaukee before the end of the show, and we're also going to remember Rhino. I know that Jordan's got some great stories But first, a word from our sponsors. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. If you're starting out, Sunnyside has expert guidance and brands they'll know you love, like Good News and Mindy's. If you're a pro, they have you covered with over 100 strains on the menu and new ones added daily. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter the promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day. Only for 21 and older or Illinois medical card holders. For existing users, use that promo code CHGO50 for 50% off one Cresco Labs brand item. Hey, just like our favorite team needs a home field advantage, your home needs a home flooring advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all been to the big box store. You walk around aimlessly. They might have a flooring department, but the person helping you in quote-unquote flooring might have been working the toilet aisle yesterday. They might be selling lumber tomorrow. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring. With Empire Today, to get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. Let's face it. CHGO listeners can receive a $350 discount. How about that? All you have to do is use the promo code CHGO. You heard me right. A $350 discount. That's $350 back in your pocket using the code CHGO. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/CHGO for full details. Empire Today. Trade deadline, of course, is coming up on Thursday, and we will be here with a full hour-long trade deadline show starting 4:30 up to at least 5:30 tomorrow. And hopefully, if there's something big happening before that, we will have an emergency podcast here at CHGO Cubs. People in the chat asking, what about Verlander? What about Verlander? I hear Verlander's available. Are you in on the Justin Verlander a few years too late? Because that should have been the move. Of course, we all know. Wanted to be a Cub, waited to be a Cub, and then we got Quintana the Buick.
the Buick. Yes. I would say yes, because I don't think it would cost them anything. I would be willing, if it cost them virtually nothing other than money, to bring him here. This is a guy who obviously who's had an incredible career and has had so many starts and big games and World Series, and could maybe be a little bit revitalized by being on a team that has, the chance to go deep in the postseason. Would I take a flyer on Justin Verlander? Sure. Now, the season that he's having is not good. I mean, he has a negative .2 WAR. He has a 4.53 ERA. I mean, if you look at his last 5 starts, his last start he gave up 1 run in 5 innings and struck out 7. And the start before that, he didn't give up any runs, but he walked 5. And in the previous 3 starts, he was not good. So it's a move that would be one that would get people interested because of who he is.
Yeah.
But the reality is you really don't know what you get. But I think if it's virtually no risk, I would take Justin Verlander.
I would agree with Vanilla Chill. It would be very Cubs to get Verlander 6 years after they should have gotten him. Although that would have been very old Cubs to do that. Like, that would be very old Cubs to go get Nomar after he was washed.
Yes.
Right? Like that's the
Fred
type.
McGriff at the end.
Yes. So those would have been the moves that the old Cubs would have made. Yes, they missed out on him when they should have had him the first time around. But would I rather see a start down the stretch from Colin Ray, or would I rather see a couple roll of the dices with Verlander and maybe, I would like Verlander. I just don't want Verlander to be the only guy that.
Well, he can't be. He can't be because
I want him to be the second guy. Like I would like to see Verlander be Verlander with, I don't know, maybe it is Mitch Keller. Maybe it is like, if you're not going to get Mackenzie Gordon, you're not going to get Ryan, then I can combo it. Then I can do Bieber Verlander. Then I can do something like that where Zach Gallen Verlander, because boy, you might catch lightning in a bottle with either one of them, and it's changed things. So that I'm willing to go with.
The context, though, that you give, though, is good, because if Verlander is the only move, it's objectively a bad move.
Sure.
If that's their move,
if you're counting on that and Tyone to be spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, this season is all hinging on the fact that they traded for a 5+ WAR player and Kyle Tucker to help them win right now, okay? Yeah. So trading for 42-year-old Justin Verlander and hoping for lightning in a bottle doesn't scream team trying to get to the World Series. If he's the third move you make, great. No problem with that.
All right, I want to take a little bit of time because we've done it every day since he passed. A little time for remembering Ryno. I've shared some stories for the little bit that I knew Ryno, got to know him a little bit after his playing days, obviously, and worked with him, NBC Sports Chicago. You did too, from GN to the Score and just being around the area, you also got to interact. What I've said here is that one of the great things about Ryno was he's one of the greatest players in the history of the game. And for a guy that could have an ego, there wasn't one. He just had this way of making everybody feel so at ease. Like there was he almost instantly in a conversation. And this is all post like 2007 for me, any of these interactions. It wasn't Ryno the player, but he had a way of making you feel like you were buds, you'd known him forever, or he was just a guy that walked up to you and you were just talking to somebody. Not a Hall of Famer.
Yes, it was really incredible because, as a kid, Ryno was one of my heroes. And
Me too.
I remember when he did his book signing, he came to Northbrook Court, and my mom and I waited for a long time to get to the front of the line to meet Ryno. And there's a picture of me as like an 11-year-old kid with standing next to Ryno and taking a picture. And I was like on cloud 9. And then I remember, my dad knew somebody that, he was on the phone with in the car. We were leaving Wrigley Field. And my dad goes, "Do you want to talk to Ryne Sandberg on the phone?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He hands me the phone. And all of a sudden I'm talking to Ryno. He's wishing me luck on my baseball team, as a kid. And then, as an adult and then working in the Chicago media, he just was so... You're right. It was like, here's this guy who's one of the greatest baseball players in history. And when you would talk to him, he was so normal and down to earth. You never felt like you were in the presence of greatness, even though you obviously were. And the thing that I'll always be grateful for was just the way he treated you. And, my friend Brian Beto and I had him on our podcast a couple of times. We had him on the radio where he would do interviews just for us and was so gracious and so nice and was so helpful to me as a young guy trying to make it in the business. But, then I remember distinctly one time I was on the sideline as the sideline reporter for Northwestern football game.
So you're working, yeah.
I'm working, yeah. And all of a sudden this guy comes up behind me and gives me a bear hug at the sideline, which I was not prepared for. And I'm like, oh my God, did I just get hit by a football player? And I turn around and it's Ryno chuckling to himself because he knew he scared the you-know-what out of me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, Ryno, it's so great to see you. And he gives me a hug and the whole thing. And it's like later in the day, I feel like I finally had my brain wrap around this idea that Ryne Sandberg came up to me to say hello.
Yeah.
Because he was someone I revered so much. And, when they showed his speech over the weekend during the Hall of Fame inductions and just talking about how he played the game the right way, he is the rare athlete, in my opinion. And I think that's why so many people have had such a emotional reaction to his passing, who was the kind of person that you hoped he would be.
Yeah.
Relative to the player he was on the field. Like, played the game respectfully, did everything the right way, was the fundamental guy, and then off the field was the same kind of personality to match. It was just, he was a special man.
And I also think that there's two parts of it. One is that it almost was unexpected. Having watched him as a kid, you're watching him and think, this guy's so great, but I never hear interviews. I never hear him talk. He's not seeking out the camera. He's not flashy around the bases, like, dropping the bat or anything funny. So for him to be that normal person, which is actually not normal, right?
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
Like you saw that personality after his playing days was totally unexpected. And then just the way he was able to, how many people have you heard tell that a story like yours or like mine or like somebody like, everybody has a Ryno story because he did make you feel like you'd always been part of his family. And that is just outrageously rare in professional sports. But in professional sports, when you're talking about the best of the best of the best. And Niren says, yeah, Ryno was the big fundamental before Tim Duncan. Yes. Yes, he was.
That's right. And,
he was.
And too, that, when you think about Ryno's life post-playing,
yeah,
you have a Hall of Fame player who was willing to go manage the Peoria Chiefs and the Tennessee Smokies
and
all
the
Iowa
autographs
Cubs,
he signed around the Midwest.
Yes, and do these things and ride the bus and do it as a way to get to the majors. Now, I don't want to sit here and relitigate whether they should have hired him over Mike Quade 15 years ago, but just the thought that this humble man, who was one of the greatest players of all time, was willing to do such a thing to get to the point of managing, and then got that opportunity in Philadelphia. And when he came back to Chicago, because I remember covering those games so vividly, just the amount of love. Like, I was there last year when Rizzo came back as a Yankee, and the love that was showered on him when he came out of the dugout before the game started. And that was a great moment. I can't recall in my life as a fan or as someone who covered the team as long as I did, a reaction more loving than when Ryno would come to Wrigley as the manager of the Phillies. It was like, this is our guy.
Oh, yeah.
This is our hero.
I came to grips with Ryno never being the Cubs manager because it would have ended poorly. Not because he did a bad job, because Joe Maddon won a World Series and now he isn't around very much, right?
Yes.
And so I said yesterday, I think one of the greatest things that the Ricketts family did and that happened under Theo's watch was welcoming back Ryno after the Philly stint as an ambassador, because he was shining in that role.
Yes.
Right? And again, go back to his playing days. You're not sure that that's going to be the way it would be. That's how and he embraced it, and he was perfect in it. And does that happen if there's a bad split at the end of his managerial? I don't know. So I don't even want to think about it.
Honestly, I think the answer is no. I think we both know that if he had managed
I don't want to
experience
that.
Look, Ernie Banks was Mr. Cub, and for a generation, he was Mr. Cub. Ryno was Mr. Cub after Ernie Banks. He was. He was the accessible superstar that was around, like you said, was signing autographs, would take pictures, would be around the fans. Like, this man was the dream scenario for any franchise, because people got the opportunity to express to him what he meant to them as his career kept falling further in the past.
Yeah, and also like Ernie Banks, he was a guy who around the league, around the country, around the baseball world, universally respected, right? Like his Hall of Fame speech was respect. Have you ever met anybody that has had something bad to say about Ernie Banks? No, I haven't. Have you ever had anybody say anything to you negative about Ryno? This includes White Sox fans, Cardinals fans, Brewers fans. Have you met anybody that could come up and say, yeah, but Ryne Sandberg, this? No. Not as a person, not as a player. And to me, that's the hallmark on your way out, is like, nobody is saying nobody's going to take a shot at this. No, because there was no way you could, because there were no incidents that would set you apart that way like anybody else. And the Cubs fans and the Cubs in general are very lucky for the group of players, greats, all-time greats that they have allowed and that they have welcomed, that have reciprocated that and want to be around the team, around the fan base, and appreciate. Ernie loved the Cubs logo more than anything, period. Ryno on the last day was realizing very much so in this last year how much Cubs fans loved him. And so the relationship was greater than it had ever been. Even though it was spectacular when he was hitting home runs against Suter, and you went from 84 to 89 to 90, and all those great things in the Hall of Fame, it was the very best at the very end. Like, it couldn't have been better the way it went out with the statue and the love that was being shared between the two. Jared Wyllys is going to join us live from Milwaukee after a quick break. We want to take one more quick break for our word from our sponsors. Hey, we love living here. I've been paying property taxes in Cook County for 20 years. I've lived here for 40 years in the county. Now, overpaying for property taxes is something way too many people are doing in Cook County, and you don't have to be one of them. In Cook County, appeals windows vary by township. They close really quickly, very difficult to win, so let Ownwell's experts ensure you are prepared for when it counts. Sign up in less than 3 minutes. Now, in Cook County, Ownwell has a 25% contingent fee, meaning you only pay if your property taxes are reduced. Ownwell handles everything from start to finish. They deliver top results with an average savings of over $1,100. No upfront cost. Savings or free guarantee. Pay only if you save. Save money on your Cook County property taxes with Ownwell. Sign up in less than 3 minutes. Start that appeal today at ownwell.com/cook. That's OWNWELL.com/cook. Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake is firing off fireworks with big savings all month long. Come in today to shop the Freedom to Save sales event and drive home with $10,000 off MSRP on new Chevrolet models. Or check out their selection of more than 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. They're one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, so they're able to keep their prices competitive. And with Ray's price promise, the price you see is the price that you pay. Go see for yourself. Visit our partner at their convenient location. It's on Route 12 in Fox Lake. And don't miss out right now on their Freedom to Save sales event going on all month long for $10,000 off MSRP on new Chevrolet models. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or online, raychevrolet.com. Ray, baby, we love you. I need a minivan. You got one for me? I hope so. Cubs win a huge game up in Milwaukee, 10-3. They avoid the sweep to the Brewers, and they climb back within one game of the Brewers in this division race. The sweep could have been a bad deal. Our guy Jared Wyllys is up in Milwaukee in the press box. He joins us live from what we like to call Wrigley North. He doesn't have to. I will. Jared, what were the guys talking about after the game?
Talked quite a bit about just the perseverance that this team has. We see it today and really bouncing back from what was an ugly loss on Tuesday night in a lot of ways. Then really turning it around and looking much more like the Cubs team that we've seen for most of the season, salvaging this last game of the series and avoiding a sweep. I think that they are one of just two teams in baseball that have not been swept all season. So this says a lot for the kind of team this is. So yeah, that was a lot of the talk and, a little bit of trade deadline stuff, but most of these guys, it's just not something that they pay nearly as much attention to maybe as we do, but it is on their minds that they know that as of Friday, when they return to Wrigley, this clubhouse is going to look a little different.
Yeah. As Jordan was pointing out earlier in the podcast, like there's a big difference between losing the series 2 out of 3 and losing the series being swept 3 games to 1 game. Like in the standings makes a big difference. And then you have the off day to think about that whole thing. So it's a big difference that they got at least the last game. In the last 24 hours, they have DFA'd Vidal Brujan and Chris Flexen. Are those moves, in the grand scheme of things, making room for whoever might be added at this trade deadline? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, you kind of have to think that that's the case just because we know that they are going to add people. And so now they have 2 spots on the 40-man roster to help make that possible. And to some extent too, these are guys that were DFA'd just because performance-wise they weren't doing what the Cubs needed anymore. Flexen started off so well, but then things took a turn, and Brujan, the bat, just he's not the kind of fourth outfielder that you want on a playoff team. And so there were moves done for that reason. But yeah, this is about clearing some roster space as well, because we know that they are going to be active between now and the trade deadline tomorrow. I do think that One way or another, along with the starting pitching that we're all expecting, you have to look at that outfield now that Brujan's gone, and somebody is going to join this roster to add an outfielder, whether it's someone from within the organization or somebody that they're bringing in from the outside.
Well, Jared, then that leads me exactly to the question that I was thinking of, which is, I assume Ian Happ is fine then? I mean, he hit the home run late in the game. It seemed like last night he wasn't fine, but
right.
I assume then they're operating as if he will be available and playing for the next few weeks.
100%. There was definitely some confusion as to what his status was, last night in particular. But I think, we've gotten that all straightened out. He's clearly okay. He homered. I told him in the locker room after the game, he missed a chance to do the Kirk Gibson, like the 1988 World Series. He laughed and he said, I thought about it. But no, he's clearly okay. He's going to be in the lineup. So they have, more or less the outfield that they've been working with for most of the season. But again, you go into these last 2 months, you need someone else there to help back up that group. Suzuki's done a really nice job filling in left field when he needs to. He saw a phenomenal catch today. But I do think that some of that depth is going to depend on what the trade deadline involves. Where, a lot of fans have been watching for wins. Owen Casey going to get a shot at the major leagues. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of that is he still going to be in the organization after tomorrow? Because Craig Counsell was asked before the game today, was Casey considered as an option for a call up for today instead of Ballesteros? And Counsell said, hey, rosters change regularly, sort of alluding to just the thing that we all know is a possibility. So yeah, we'll see the direction that they go, but that is something I think is going to happen. But yeah, Happ is most certainly okay.
Yeah, that's the tricky part about the trade deadline. All fans sit here and say, I want my team to pull off this big deal to add Mackenzie Gore, Gino Suarez, Duran, Clase if he had been available, yada, yada,
You
yada.
can bet he won't be.
Everybody wants every hole on the team fixed. They want 2 ace starters, they want 2 big pieces to the bullpen, and they want the best hitter on the market. But the flip side of it is, you don't want to trade away your PCA like the Mets did, right, for a couple months of Javi Baez, and you don't want to make that big mistake like some other teams have in the past. So, Casey, Mo Baller we see come up. We hadn't seen him in such a long time. What a big hit that was for him, and then instantly you see people saying, don't trade him, like the roller coaster of emotions that there will be for some of these, especially young players here, is really something to consider as you go through the next 24 hours, right? Like this was a great hit for Ballesteros.
Yeah, it really was. And I think along with what you've just pointed out, I think fans need to remember that in the same way that their team is trying to add these pieces, so are a bunch of other teams too. And so there is a limited supply of players available that can fill in these holes. And just because your team doesn't get every single one of them doesn't mean that your front office was just sitting on their hands for the last few weeks. You're in competition with other clubs. But yeah, I do want to, Ballesteros week, I don't want to skip right past what he did. That was a clutch piece of hitting right there, that double in the gap to clear the bases, especially given that, as he told us after the game, he got 3 hours of sleep last night. He got a call and was told, hey, you need to get on a plane, get yourself to Milwaukee. I think if I remember right, he said he had a 5 a.m. flight this morning. And so not a whole lot of sleep, gets rushed up to Milwaukee, and then is in the lineup and steps up in a big way. So I don't know what the future is going to hold for him after the deadline, but a really big hit today.
All right, so we have just 5 minutes left in the podcast. Let's each answer this question and see how it all turns out. The biggest name the Cubs will acquire by the end of tomorrow night will be who, Jordan Burnfield?
Wow.
Or is it whom? I don't care. Either way.
Well, I would say positionally, it will probably be a starter. That's my starting pitcher.
Pitcher.
That's my
you don't have a name?
sense.
Don't wiggle out of this, Brumfield.
I don't know.
Who's the pitcher going to be?
I just don't know how much resource they're gonna put into getting the A-list starter. I would love for it to be a Gore, but my guess is it'll be something like a Gallen or an Eflin or somebody who's like a middle tier starter. Merrill Kelly, something like that.
That might be. So that I don't think that will make Cubs fans happy. Yeah. Jared, what about you? If you have to, you're just gonna take out your crystal ball. You're gonna look into the future, and tomorrow night you'll sit here. We're doing the trade deadline show, and you look back and say, "I was right. I knew it." The biggest name they added was who?
All right, I'm gonna run with this in a slightly different direction, but he's not the biggest name, but I will bet that if this is a guy that they get, he will be somebody that will look back and say he had one of the biggest impacts. We saw him get scratched from the White Sox start that he was supposed to have today. I think if the Cubs got Adrian Hauser, that would be a really underestimated addition. I think fans would probably not like it at first, but then when they see what he's able to do in August and September and maybe October, I think they'll look back and be like, wow, that was really kind of like an under the radar move that has made a big difference. Because if you look at what Hauser has done for the White Sox this season, he has been lights out. And so not a big name by any stretch, but I think he would become one if that's a move that they end up making.
Wouldn't that be interesting if a crosstown move ends up being the biggest move the Cubs make?
Well, and then the guy that the Cubs give up will end up being great in 3 years, and then everybody will be complaining on this podcast about the trade they made for Adrian Hauser.
That's always how it goes.
Yes.
Interesting that none of us, including me, are going to say Gino Suarez, who I think almost certainly will be traded before the end of tomorrow night. Don't know how fast it'll happen. I don't think it'll be the Cubs because I don't think they're going to want to pay the price, and some other team will get greedy and over anxious, and they'll give them what they really want. I will go with Merrill Kelly will be the biggest name that they will add. Another starting pitcher, but not the top tier. He's in like the second tier. He's like a 2B ad, right?
Yeah.
Somebody that you still could count on to start game 3 of a postseason. Him or Tyone or Horton. That will be the biggest ad I think that they make. And I hope that Willie Castro is the outfielder, but I don't know where that would go. I don't know. I don't know how big that trade market is going to be. It's not going to be Lugo Bar because Lugo has signed an extension in Kansas City. It won't be Bubic because Bubic is out for the year. Yep. It won't be Clase because he can't play. Who else won't it be? My second answer was going to be Bieber because I say where there is smoke, there is fire. And now we've seen from Ken Rosenthal the Bieber name thrown around. Some other people also mention it, and I could see that being a very Jetish move to roll the dice on someone like that. So, yeah, is there a little financial? Yeah. Is there a little prospect? Yeah. But it's not the biggest gamble in the world, and it could pay off.
I like it. The one thing I will say is if the Cubs do not end up with Suarez, which I agree they probably will not, then we don't get to hear Pat Hughes every night say Eugenio Suarez. So we all lose if that's the case.
That's the biggest loss.
Yes.
Jared, we got like a minute left. Any other quick nuggets from Milwaukee before you drive back?
No, that's kind of the main thing. The guys just talked about they're going to take the day off tomorrow and then find out what the roster looks like on Friday, while the rest of us are, refreshing our Twitter feeds all day long.
I mean, no question about it. They will enjoy their off day a lot more after today's game than they would have had they been swept by the Milwaukee Brewers. So it feels a lot better today than it did before. Jared, thanks. Drive back safely. I'll see you tomorrow, 4:30, maybe earlier. Maybe earlier if they trade for Bieber, Mackenzie Gore, Gino Suarez, and other players to be named later.
I like the Hauser idea.
Hauser, I like it too. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, guys.
Want to thank all of you for joining us for the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Toyota and Bet365. Want to thank you for coming in and doing the show.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
And for your great Rhino stories. the bear hug on the Northwestern sidelines, pretty tough to beat, and a kid getting a chance to talk to Ryne Sandberg when he was still playing. That's pretty unbelievable. So rest in peace, Rhino. We will probably continue those throughout the rest of the season here, remembering Rhino. Cubs win 10-3, big win up in Milwaukee. Now a day off, and we get ready for the trade deadline. Until then, thanks for watching, and don't forget, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.